Listening Library presents Andi Mack, Tomorrow Starts Today, by Elizabeth Rudnick, and Rockin' Road Trip by Alexa Young, the Andi Mack series, Books 1 and 2. Read for you by Jessie Vilinsky.
Part 1. Chapter 1. Andi's mom is going to be so mad at her. Looking down at the electric scooter's dashboard, Andi hesitated. The keys jingled on the end of her finger as her hand shook. She wasn't sure if she was shaking because she was nervous. After all, she had never ridden a scooter before. Or because she was scared. After all, she had never defied her mother before. Then again, she had never been almost 13 before. Taking a deep breath, she lowered the shiny black helmet over her brown pixie cut. "Be brave, Andi Mack," she said to herself. "You can do this." Then, before she could change her mind, Andi put the key in the ignition and turned it. With a loud roar, or rather a very loud purr, the scooter came to life. Gripping the handlebars, Andi took off. As the scooter raced along the path toward the center of town, Andi tried not to scream. It felt like she was going 1,000,000 miles an hour. The wind tugged at her jacket, making the white racing stripes flutter, and she was pretty sure that if the helmet hadn't been covering every inch of her face, she would have gotten a serious case of windburn. Narrowly missing a tree, Andi took a corner, a bit faster than she had anticipated, and found herself looking out over a very steep hill. This time, she didn't even attempt to hold back the scream. Ah! Finally, the terrible hill flattened out, and Andi rolled onto Main Street. She clutched the handlebars as she weaved through people and traffic. For a brief moment, Andi felt like she was finally getting the hang of the scooter. Maybe buying this thing without telling anyone wasn't such a bad idea after all. But then she rounded a corner and nearly flattened her two best friends before stopping. "Whoa!" Cyrus shouted, nearly dropping his bright blue water bottle as he jumped back in fear. "Watch where you're going, psycho!" Buffy said. Unlike Cyrus, Buffy didn't seem scared. She just looked annoyed. Or angry. Or ready to speak her mind. It was hard to tell. That was one of Buffy's many talents, keeping people guessing. Behind the opaque mask of her helmet, Andi smiled. Her best friends were so different from each other. Yet somehow, those differences seemed to make their friendship stronger. Cyrus was the sensitive one, always ready to help out and listen. He also happened to be totally tuned into pop culture, and was Andi's go-to person when she was coming up with something new and crafty in her art shack. Buffy, on the other hand, was more a tough love kind of friend. She looked all sweetness and light with her big brown eyes and wide smile, but she was strong-minded, and not afraid of confrontation. Like now, for example, as she clenched her hands into fists at her sides. Catching his breath, Cyrus stepped forward. "You could have killed us!" he shouted. But any further protest died on his lips as Andi finally took off her helmet, and her friends realized who had nearly run them over. "Andi!" he and Buffy exclaimed together. Andi smiled, flipping her bangs out of her face. "Sorry, I haven't figured out the brakes yet," she said. "So, what do you think? Do you like it?" Buffy and Cyrus rushed forward and began examining the shiny yellow scooter. They gushed as they checked out the metal handlebars and the fancy dials on the dashboard. They agreed. They didn't just like the new bike. They loved it. But Buffy had one question. "When do you think you'll take off the training wheels?" she asked, pointing at the back of the bike. Andi glanced at the two shiny new training wheels that were supporting the back wheel of the scooter. Looking at her friends, she laughed sheepishly. So she wasn't quite a total rebel. Not yet, at least. But the training wheels wouldn't be there forever. The next day, Andi was turning 13. That meant no more training wheels. And when they came off, there would be no stopping Andi Mack. Andi turned and began to walk the scooter along Shadyside's one and only Main Street sidewalk. Her friends fell in beside her. "I can't believe your mom let you get this," Cyrus said as they walked. They strolled past the same stores that had been there their whole lives, from the brick-fronted barber shop with its traditional red, white, and blue post, to the flower shop displaying dozens of bouquets. Main Street seemed perfect and picturesque. "Oh, she has no idea," Andi said. Cyrus's tone had been teasing, but he knew as well as she did that her mom was not the easygoing type. She was the opposite. "I traded in my bike. That plus the money I made cat-sitting for the Wadmans." It had been hard for her to give up that money. The cat was not easy to sit for. But Andi had done it anyway. She had never bought anything so, well, grown up with her own money before. While she knew it was probably going to land her in hot water, it still felt good. And then Buffy rained reality on her parade. "Hold on, back up," Buffy said, pulling on the straps of her backpack. "You really think she'll let you keep this thing? The woman who wouldn't let you within 10 feet of a bouncy castle?" Andi nodded. True, her mother was tough. True, her mother was not a fan of fun or adventure. But this was different. "All of that changes as of tomorrow," she said. Cyrus furrowed his dark eyebrows. "What happens tomorrow?" "I turned 13, Andi reminded her friends. "I become a teenager. It means I get to rebel." "Yeah, sure," Cyrus agreed. "Do that." Andi's hopes lifted. She had known Cyrus would understand. Then he continued. "But maybe start with something simple. Some black nail polish. Or," he paused for dramatic effect, "part your hair on the other side." He ran his hands through his own thick, dark hair and left it standing straight up. Andi couldn't help smiling at her friend's take on rebellion. She wasn't really trying to rebel. Honestly, she was just tired of hearing someone say no every time she opened her mouth. She figured that if she didn't ask, then her mom couldn't say no. Wasn't there some expression about doing now and asking for forgiveness later? She was just going to have to ask for forgiveness. A lot of forgiveness. After her mom saw the scooter. Unfortunately, that moment was all too quick in coming. Shadyside wasn't a big town, which meant its Main Street wasn't exactly long. And since Andi lived right near Main Street, she and her friends arrived in front of her house way faster than she would have liked. Stopping, she gazed up at her home. It looked perfect, just the way her mother liked it. The plants that lined the front walkway were impeccably trimmed. Bright flowers hung from flower pots along the big wraparound porch, and the gray siding looked as though it had been painted that morning. Nothing was out of place. Andi was pretty sure not even a blade of grass dared to grow in the wrong direction. Not under her mother's watchful eye. The whole way over, she had kept talking about being brave and bold and how being a teenager was going to change her. But now, standing in front of her house, she felt some of that boldness slipping away. Buffy was quick to notice. "I'm impressed," she said, raising her eyebrows. "We made it almost to your driveway before you chickened out." "I'm not chickening out," Andi protested. "I'm totally chickening out," she thought, throwing a desperate look in Cyrus's direction. Cyrus saw the look and knew instantly what Andi needed. "I can hide it in my garage," he offered. Andi let out a sigh of relief. She had known Cyrus would come through for her. Thanking him, she turned to hand off the scooter and get inside before her mom saw them standing there. But just as she lifted her fingers from the handlebars, a loud roar came from the end of the street. The three friends looked toward the sound and watched as a large black motorcycle turned onto Andi's street. Cyrus began to grin. Buffy's eyes grew wide. "Whoa," she said, nudging Andi with her elbow. "Now that's the real deal." I like yours better, Cyrus said, patting Andy.
Sample complete. Ready to continue?